Teachers, school staff, and administrators accused of knowing that a Wisconsin high school was a hunting ground for sexual predators and doing nothing about it. That is the accusation from 3 women who all went to Oconto Falls High and realized that they experienced some of the same alleged abuse and even the same alleged abusers.
It's been an ongoing cause of just hurt and pain, and so
now, they have filed a lawsuit to hold this school district accountable, and we're going to break it down right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Now, as we're always talking about dangers out there, I got to say, most people don't realize how exposed their digital lives are to scammers until, you finally notice identity theft or credit fraud on your account, and by then it's too late. The damage is already done. But with OmniWatch, in just minutes, you can protect your identity, your credit, and your financial accounts from scams all in one place. It runs on its own 24/7, scanning credit bureaus and the dark web to spot data breaches in real time. And if something's off, OmniWatch alerts you to secure your accounts ASAP. And if identity theft does happen, they're backed up by $2 million in insurance, so you can have real protection and peace of mind. And by the way, their website, so clean, so easy to use. Safeguard your credit and identity at www.omniwatch.com/sidebar for 50% off of your first month. You have 3 plaintiffs in a federal lawsuit against the Board of Education of Oconto Falls Public School District in Wisconsin that are right now waiting. They are awaiting a reply from the defendant after they filed a 60-page lawsuit last week. And their suit is seemingly backed up by arrests and a conviction of school staff in connection with apparent grooming and assault of teenagers in their care. It can get a little tricky depending upon the jurisdiction in terms of what prior convictions can be used as evidence in a civil case or subsequent civil filings, but just generally, this is what we're talking about. So this lawsuit claims that when the school district learned about allegations against teachers or staff, they didn't follow their own procedures. Instead, the accusation is that they allegedly covered up the misconduct. According to the law firm that filed this lawsuit, that meant that one of the plaintiff's abusers was allowed to stay on the district's payroll and eventually abuse another one of those plaintiffs years later.
Even though there was multiple years of reporting and the warning signs, and yet they failed to act. What these women discovered in 2025 was not just an isolated incident, but a deeply disturbing pattern of teacher-student sexual abuse that happened over decades. As we allege in our lawsuit, this school board, its deliberate indifference created and protected an environment and culture where predators had access to children, and these students were left unprotected, unheard, and alone. These women are coming forward now, not only to seek justice for the harm that was caused to them, but also to expose the institutional failures that allowed the abuse to continue and to demand meaningful change so no other students have to endure what they did.
Our lawsuit has 3 plaintiffs. Grace Williams, who's present to my right, Amanda Watzka, who's present to my left, and Brooke LaCount, who cannot be here today. These 3 brave young women have come forward with these claims because they want to solve an institutional problem. They want to stop the culture where sex abusers, groomers, other school staff who think it's okay to engage in sexualized conduct and grooming towards students is allowed to flourish. The goal of this lawsuit is to cause a cultural change, both at Oconto Falls High School, where this happened, and hopefully throughout the region. Again, our clients are Amanda Watzka, Brooke LaCount, and Grace Williams. These 3 women are from Oconto Falls, Wisconsin. All 3 of them endured sexual grooming and abuse by teachers and coaches while they were minors enrolled in this district's schools. Through our investigation over the past approximately 8 months, we have identified at least 9 teachers, and staff members who engaged in sexual abuse, grooming, or severe sexualized misconduct with other students at Oconto Falls. Of those other students, we have identified at least 14 known victims. over an approximate 20-year period from 2005 to 2025. 20 years, folks, that children sat in these classrooms, trusted the adults around them, and were failed by every single person in a position to protect them while at that school. We're asking you to come forward. Let's blow this open. This is a reckoning for this problem. It's gotta stop, and these women have stepped forward to carry the load to make it stop. All right, the suit's been filed. We're waiting on a judge assignment and a first court date. Once I have the paperwork, the summons back from the court, we will send it out for service on Oconto Falls, and we'll keep you further updated as we go forward. Thank you very much. Questions?
So it seems this lawyer introduced the three plaintiffs in this case: Grace Williams, Amanda Watzka, and Brooke LaCount. According to the filing, these women didn't even know each other back in high school, but that they met later on social media and realized they all had similar stories of apparent grooming and inappropriate contact with district employees. Also, by the way, literally breaking, as we recorded this, 2 more plaintiffs were added to the lawsuit as part of this amended complaint, both former students of Oconto Falls High School, Brianna Kane and Kayla Casper. And we're going to hear from one of those plaintiffs, Amanda, in just a moment. But first, I want to go through some of these allegations, okay? And I do want to let you know up front that this filing names a lot of different people, and we're only going to be identifying the 3 people that the women directly accused of abuse, so 2 of whom have either already been convicted of sex crimes or are currently awaiting trial. And also of note, the lawsuit doesn't name them as defendants, instead only naming the school district itself. But you read from the complaint and it says, quote, "This is a civil rights action arising from the sexual grooming and abuse of 3 students at Oconto Falls High School by teachers and coaches employed by the board. Plaintiff Amanda was groomed and sexually abused by her tech education teacher, David Heisel, while she was a student at Oconto Falls High School from approximately 2010 to 2013, when she was between the ages of 16 and 18. When you talk about liability and responsibility of the school district, the board, it's because the people, the educators who are accused of doing all this, they were employed, they were acting as agents, right, of the employee. You're talking about not something that they did not within the scope or the course of their employment, but that it was connected to it, right? So I just want to make that clear as we go through it. As of now, though, David Heisel has not faced criminal charges in connection with any sort of sex crimes, but the complaint does make pretty damning allegations against him and even provides photos of him with Amanda, which we'll get more into the specifics in a second. But the Green Bay Press-Gazette, and by the way, also I should tell you, criminal case is very different from a civil case, right? So you might not have sufficient evidence to prosecute to say that someone committed a crime beyond a reasonable doubt, our highest standard, whereas when you talk about potential liability from the same set of facts, the same set of circumstances, all you need to usually show is preponderance of the evidence, right? So more than 50%, it's a lower standard of proof. So that's why sometimes you can see a finding of liability in a civil case, but maybe no charges in a criminal case, or maybe not guilty in a criminal case. All right. Now, the Green Bay Press-Gazette reports that while Heisel's name still appears on a district website as being a teacher, he's not listed in the school's directory. Continue from the complaint. Plaintiff Brooke was groomed and sexually abused by assistant volleyball coach Bryn Marie Larson while Brooke was a 15-year-old sophomore at Oconto Falls High School during the 2013-2014 school year. Plaintiff Grace was groomed and sexually abused by substitute teacher Bryn Marie Larson while Grace was a 17-year-old junior at Oconto Falls High School in February through April 2018. Now, those dates kind of give you an idea of how long the district is accused of allowing a predatory environment, with the plaintiff's allegations dating all the way back to 2010 and some concern in the filing that it could have even been going on even longer. The lawsuit also names a 3rd former staffer, ex-teacher Gail Gander. The 60-year-old was reportedly fired from the district back in December, charged in January with 5 counts of sexual misconduct of school staff, 3 counts of child enticement involving the exposure of genitals, and 3 counts of exposing his own genitals to a child. None of those plaintiffs accuse Gander of abuse, but they claim that his charges are in connection with teenage boys. You go back to the lawsuit. Throughout the periods of their abuse, plaintiffs were minors who did not understand that their teacher's conduct was predatory, criminal, or constituted actionable civil wrongs. Each plaintiff always remembered the facts of what occurred to her, but did not understand until 2025 that those facts reflected criminal conduct and constitutional violations. Now, this is important because it speaks to why the women are coming forward to file this lawsuit now, years later, when there could have been a statute of limitations issue, right? You know, is it time barred? But also goes to credibility. Why do you wait all this time to file a lawsuit and make these accusations? So their legal team argues that since the women didn't realize what happened to them was a crime until 2025, that's when the clock restarts. Quote, the theory of plaintiff's case against the board is not simply that they were sexually abused, but that they were abused by teachers and coaches under circumstances created by the board through its pervasive custom and policy of knowing about teacher-student sexual abuse and failing to act. A lot of these lawsuits, the question is, did you create an environment for this to happen, right? Did you enable this to happen? Quote, while plaintiffs were aware of their abuse, they had no knowledge and no reason to know of the board's unwritten policies, customs, and practices tolerating sexual abuse and grooming across many teachers and students, and the board's deliberate indifference to such conduct until fall 2025, when they learned of the full scope of teacher-student sexual abuse at Oconto Falls High School and the board's decades-long pattern of ignoring it. The board's conduct in maintaining such unwritten policies, customs, and practices was entirely within the board's own control and wholly unknown to plaintiffs prior to 2025. By the way, let me just quick sidebar here. These are allegations. These are allegations, right? They're making some serious accusations against the school board and the school district, and obviously obviously the other side will have an opportunity to respond and defend themselves, but I just want to make that clear. In fall of 2025, plaintiffs discovered for the first time that the board had such unwritten policies, customs, and practices of fostering and condoning sexual abuse and grooming by discovering that at least 9 different teachers, including their own abusers, had engaged in grooming and or sexual abuse, as to at least 14 identified victims spanning a period of at least 20 years, 2005 to 2025, and that the board had consistently failed to investigate, discipline, or otherwise act on reports of abuse. So the complaint then has this chart laying out some of the allegations, when they reportedly happened, who was involved, who was allegedly involved. The alleged victims are identified by their initials. Some of the people in the perpetrator column are identified as staff members A, B, C, D, and E. So for example, staff member A is accused of, quote, alleged sexual conduct in Ice Shack in approximately 2011. Staff member B is accused of alleged sexualized quid pro quo for grades between 2012 and 2015. The chart claims that staff members C and D participated in alleged verbal harassment on multiple occasions, made propositions to a sugar baby after graduation, and sent inappropriate social media messages. The lawsuit then gets into specific claims that are made by Amanda and Grace and Brooke. I want to start with Amanda. Now, she claims that she met David Heisel in her sophomore year, that she was interested in drafting and architecture, so she took several classes with Heisel, this tech education teacher. She claims that Heisel showed her special attention, nominating her to be Student of the Month and helping her to go to a competition called Skills USA. And she claims that his interactions with her went beyond a normal teacher-student relationship. Quote, Heisel began discussing personal subjects with Amanda, including his personal life, interests, and hobbies, while asking Amanda about her personal interests, home life, and hobbies. Heisel started inviting Amanda on drives during her sophomore year, continuing through her senior year. During these drives, they would go to Heisel's job sites, go out to eat, and sit in his vehicle and talk for hours. Amanda does not have an exact count, but avers these drives occurred at least weekly, sometimes multiple times per week over approximately 3 years, including her junior and senior years. Destinations included his construction sites, Green Bay, his house, and his grandmother's house. During these drives, Heisel discussed his sex life with Amanda, inquired about her sexual history and experiences, and discussed his home life, his marriage, and his children while alone with Amanda. Amanda was 16 and a sophomore when these drives began. So according to Amanda, Heisel told her about his upbringing as a Christian, reportedly told her he could take care of like a good Christian man would, or could take care of her like a good Christian man would. She claims that he told her his wife had cheated on him, but that he was going to leave for Amanda. And she says she believes she was in this legitimate romantic relationship. And she even allegedly provided a few photos from her high school years that she says backs up her claims that Heisel was openly inappropriate with her. For example, there's a photo of a tape measure, or there's seemingly a photo of a tape measure, that Amanda kept with her, that kept with her supplies in the classroom, with her maiden name on it. And she claims that Heisel put his own initials, DH, at the bottom. That there's another apparent photograph showing Amanda posing with a male student. And Heisel, apparently in a black sweatshirt, is off to the side looking at the pair in what Amanda described as a kind of defensive posture. There's also a photo of Heisel and Amanda at her graduation from Oconto Falls High, and she's holding Heisel's young son, making it seem like they were a family. That seems to be the characterization there. And according to Amanda, I mean, the real thing here is that she claims Heisel sexually assaulted her during an out-of-town trip. Quote, in or about spring 2012, Amanda attended a Skills USA competition at Chula Vista Resort in Wisconsin Dells. During this trip, Heisel entered Amanda's hotel room and scoped out the room and bathrooms for other students. Amanda immediately felt threatened and fearful. As Heisel attempted to engage Amanda in sexual activity, she was able to leave the room and return to the common hallway. Heisel followed her into the hotel stairway. The lawsuit then goes on to describe an assault in the stairway in very graphic detail, and she claims that Heisel didn't rape her, but only because she managed to convince him to stop because he was a married man. And then years later, Amanda started to open up about what she says happened to her. The lawsuit reads, as Amanda began to investigate and discuss her experiences with others, she learned for the first time that numerous other students had experienced teacher-on-student sexual abuse at Oconto Falls High School, and that the board had created an environment in which such abuse was enabled and empowered to occur. Amanda learned in 2025 that the board's pattern of knowledge of teacher-student abuse and failing to act spanned at least 20 years, 2005 to 2025, involved at least 9 different teachers, and affected at least 14 identified victims. Prior to 2025, Amanda did not know that the board had a pervasive problem with other teachers engaging in abuse and grooming and failed to act, or that the board's systemic failures had created a culture in which teachers like Heisel could abuse students without consequence. Amanda did not learn that the board injured her through its own institutional conduct until 2025. So this goes to the questions again of why filing now? Why didn't you make these accusations earlier on? It's about a knowledge component. And look, an underlying part about this will be trying to prove what happened or allegedly happened in 2012, which could be a challenge. You know, is there corroborating evidence? Is there corroborating witnesses? Is there photos, other text messages, things like that? Now, Amanda did speak at this news conference announcing the federal lawsuit. Take a look.
Are either of you comfortable talking about that? Go ahead. You can do it.
I feel like we just began to share our stories. We're not even completely there yet. My personal abuser has not been held accountable at all at this point, and we're over a year from me coming forward. So it's been an ongoing cause of just hurt and pain. And so coming forward, having the voice to do so and the means to do so and the support to do so is important, because not everybody has that opportunity that is in the same position that we are in.
How much strength is this taking you to talk in front of 5, 6 cameras, a handful of people over live stream? Is this, I mean, talk about how difficult this must be and how much courage you have.
It's got to stop, right? So it takes somebody to have the courage to step up and stop it. Otherwise, it's going to continue for another 20 years. And then other plaintiffs will be in their motherhood or their later years and uncover the trauma that they experienced in their earlier years. And I just want to prevent that as much as possible, because it has impacted my life greatly.
Okay, now I want to talk about Brooke LaCount. So she and Grace Williams claim that they were both targeted by Bryn Marie Larson, who would end up spending some time in prison for sexual assault. So Brooke claims that she met Larson through Larson's mom, Dawn, who is head coach of the school's volleyball team. Larson was apparently the assistant coach, had filled in as her substitute teacher as needed. Quote, this is from the complaint. Around August 2013, Bryn Marie Larson began sending Snapchat messages to Brooke, often late at night. Bryn Marie Larson began sending Brooke photographs of her naked body and asking Brooke to reciprocate. Brooke had just turned 15 years old and felt uncertain, confused, and pressured because Bryn was one of her volleyball coaches. Bryn says things quickly escalated to Larson asking her out when she was just 15 years old. They ate at Panera, then Larson pulled into a Target parking lot, put the seats in her vehicle down, and engaged Brooke in sexual activity. The lawsuit says Brooke did not know what sex between women was and was not interested in sexual activity with women, but she felt obligated to comply because of the power differential between her and Bryn Marie Larson and because of her youth and inexperience. Around the same time, Bryn Marie Larson told Brooke she could turn her into a college athlete. Bryn Marie Larson also began attempting to separate Brooke from her family by telling her that her family did not come to enough games and did not care about her, but that Brooke could always rely on Bryn. And Larson started inviting Brooke over to her house, and Brooke would end up spending the night. And the lawsuit claims that Larson's own mom, Dawn, knew what was going on. Bryn Marie Larson had Brooke sleep in her bed, where Larson would sleep nude and engage or attempt to engage Brooke in sexual acts. Larson also played pornography on her television. When Brooke stayed overnight, Dawn Larson, health education teacher, head coach, and mandated reporter, was present in the home and aware of Brooke's presence. Dawn Larson observed Brooke and Bryn Marie Larson snuggling on the couch and had to have been aware that they were sleeping in the same bed. Now, in 2014, police started investigating Larson, and Brooke says she was terrified and confused and denied having sexual contact with her assistant coach. Quote, despite the police investigation, nothing was done to stop Bryn Marie Larson's contact with Brooke. Larson subsequently showed up at Brooke's mother's workplace, sent Brooke flowers, and continued engaging with her online. Brooke says her so-called relationship with Larson continued, but Brooke actually ended up switching schools because rumors around school were rampant that she was a lesbian involved with Larson. Now, Larson also moved to another district for a while, but would seemingly be allowed to return to Oconto Falls. So the lawsuit refers to the school's athletic director and what he allegedly knew about what was going on. Quote, in the police report from the 2014 investigation, the investigating officer recounted the following regarding his conversation with Moynihan. By the way, I should also tell you this is all potential evidence in the lawsuit. I did speak with Jerry Moynihan, the Oconto Falls High School athletic director. Jerry said that he remembered people complaining to him about seeing Bryn and Brooke together, but that he wasn't really able to substantiate anything. Jerry said that he did have a discussion with Bryn about boundaries. And the complaint goes on to name more school teachers and staff who would have seen Larson and Brooke together in situations that were at the minimum inappropriate. And then the complaint references the third plaintiff, Grace Williams. She claims she was 17, a junior at Oconto Falls in the 2017-2018 school year, that Larson had been allowed to return to the district as a substitute teacher around the same time. Quote, in 2025, Amanda contacted Brooke about Amanda's own experiences of abuse at Oconto Falls High School. Through this contact and subsequent investigation in 2025, Brooke learned for the first time that despite the 2014 police investigation, the board permitted Larson to return to Oconto Falls as a substitute teacher in 2018, where she victimized Grace Williams in substantially the same manner. So Larson was once again accused of using social media to kick off this sick behavior. The lawsuit states in or about February 2018, Bryn Marie Larson added Grace on Snapchat. Grace accepted because she knew Larson was adding popular students. By the way, when I talked about evidence before, if you have the social media proof, right? If you have photos, messages, it's all key. Grace says that all of her friends were also communicating with Larson, but that Larson singled her out, saying she would leave her girlfriend for Grace, and allegedly started doing things like sending her flowers and inviting her to her home. And during one of those visits to Larson's home, the lawsuit claims Larson invited Grace to her house along with other students, including TF and MK. When Grace went to Larson's house, Larson asked Grace to come to the bedroom with her and began making out with Grace in her room. Grace tried to stop it so she could leave peacefully. Grace then saw Dawn Larson, who was present in the home at the time. Grace and Dawn locked eyes, and Dawn walked away. This occurred in or about March 2018. Yeah. After the bedroom incident, Grace told her mother about what happened. Grace's mother wanted to go to the police, but Grace did not want to because she was scared of being bullied or harassed by other students. Grace eventually disclosed the abuse to her friend TF, who went to the school resource officer and reported it. The school resource officer spoke with Grace and had her explain what happened. Grace believes the school principal and guidance counselor were also notified. Despite these reports, the board conducted no formal investigation, and Grace was never formally interviewed by school officials. Grace was not given any emotional support, counseling, or other supportive measures. Students began blaming Grace for Bryn and Dawn's departure. Grace's story was not taken seriously by school officials, and for her, no one really cared. That's quote, no one really cared. So Larson pleaded no contest in February of 2021 to third-degree sexual assault. This is according to the Green Bay Press-Gazette. A little bit different than pleading guilty. You're basically saying, I'm not going to fight this. It's different than making a formal admission. A charge of second-degree sexual assault of a child and 2 counts of child enticement were dismissed as part of a plea, and she went to prison for 2 years, was released in 2023. And the lawsuit goes into other allegations against teachers and staff at Oconto Falls. That includes Gail Gander, an English arts teacher who'd worked at the high school for decades. Quote, on or about December 15, 2025, Gander was arrested on criminal charges for allegations of misconduct during his employment with the district. The arrest relates to allegations from 5 student victims whose allegations are sufficiently recent to fall within the applicable statute of limitations. An additional victim of Gander's misconduct, known as MD, has come forward stating, I wish I had the courage to speak up about Gander back in 2005, but I didn't. MD's statement indicates that Gander was engaging in sexual conduct with students as early as 2005, meaning the board allowed Gander's abuse to continue for at least 20 years. That's the quote from the complaint. Other staff members were apparently accused of going to high school parties with students, creating an alleged list of the hottest students in school, touching teenagers inappropriately in full view of their classmates. So this lawsuit includes multiple different appendices which contain more charts of alleged abuse. You have Appendix A. It's titled Pattern of Abuse, Victims, Perpetrators, Conduct, Board Knowledge. Appendix B, Timeline of Reports and the board's apparent response. Appendix C lists mandated reporters that the plaintiffs claim failed in their duties to protect the students. All 3 plaintiffs claim that their interactions with the Oconto Falls staff left them with ongoing discomfort, PTSD, more harm. Again, this goes to the damages calculation. They all are suing for violation of Title IX and a Monell claim. Title IX, of course, protects students from discrimination or harm related to their sex. A Monell claim refers to a deprivation of rights to bodily integrity under the 14th Amendment. So the women say the district and its employees violated that. And the suit doesn't give a specific amount of damages or compensation that the plaintiffs are looking for, but instead says, quote, all 3 plaintiffs suffered substantial damages, including loss of equal educational opportunities, emotional distress, and other compensatory damages. Wherefore, Amanda, Brooke, and Grace respectfully request that this court enter judgment in their favor and against the board award compensatory damages in amounts to be determined at trial, either injunctive relief requiring the board to institute adequate policies and procedures to prevent teacher-student grooming and sexual abuse, and grant such other relief as the court deems just and proper. Now, local affiliate Action 2 News reached out to the school district for a response to this lawsuit. The district sent them a statement that says, in part, plaintiffs threatened to sue the district and made substantial monetary demands in August 2025. Since August, the district has responded to plaintiffs and their attorneys to recognize the wrongs by these 2 former employees, but also to help them understand that the district took prompt action when it was made aware of the misconduct. The district is confident that its past actions and its response to plaintiffs' demands have satisfied its duty to keep its students and schools safe. By working with law enforcement, the district has addressed each of these situations. Plaintiffs' allegations in their complaint about other staff and other students have also been investigated by the district. The district staff of excellent professional educators strive every day to deliver a great educational experience for all students. This is not diminished by the inexcusable actions of these identified former employees. In every instance in which the district became aware of allegations against an individual, definitive action has been taken. The district is not able to comment further on the details of this lawsuit as it is an ongoing matter. The district remains confident, however, that it will continue to act promptly to any allegations of misconduct. So it's interesting because the school district has been served with the lawsuit. They've issued a summons. I'm sure they're going to file a formal answer, denying the allegations, maybe putting forward affirmative defenses for why this case can't move forward. But it's interesting about what they seem to admit to and what they don't, and whether or not they're going to take this to trial to clear their name or not. Because if they go forward with a settlement, there's a number of reasons why you'd want to go through a settlement, right? You don't want the time, the expense of going through a trial, discovery, what information is going to be shared. That could be problematic. But, if you issue a settlement or if you go through with a settlement, there will be many of those out there who believe that the school is just trying to wipe this away, right? And so it's tough. It's tough. Interesting to see what will happen. But that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can also check us out on NBC's Peacock as well. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you next time, everybody.